In today's episode, I want to share what I learned in Lewis Howe's book event and podcast live event tour thingy, and he did an interview with Evie Pompire, something like that. It starts with a P, and she's really awesome. I really like listening to her interviews. So I learned a bunch, and I was kind of like reflecting a bit on what she was talking about. So I really want to share kind of like the things that I learned just going to the event, and then like the event itself, or like insights that Lewis will talk about and Evie will talk about. So with that being said, welcome to another episode of Mano Meresco. I am super excited. I am outside, and I don't know why I chose to be outside in the sun like this, but it's okay. We're getting that vitamin D and that what's that thing called, like raising our frequency or vibration or energy. So that's pretty cool too. So with that being said, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share in YouTube, and also on Spotify you can follow and comment, and then follow also on Apple Podcasts because that really supports the podcast. So with that being said, I decided to go to Lewis Howe's event literally like last minute. I was in New York, so I've seen his video, his posts, and then his ads, like his ads in social media and whatnot, and I was like, oh, it'll be really cool to go and see him, but you know, there's the in the back of my head, it's, oh, but I shouldn't be spending my money. I don't have money right now. It's very unstable, so right now I shouldn't be spending as much. But it's kind of funny because I'm also in this whole process with Asuna Naite. I don't know if y'all heard about it, and if you speak Spanish, definitely go check her out. But it's a lot this past few, because I'm in her membership. She's been talking a lot about how we have to let ourselves receive and to have the things que deseamos, like, but like truly, like intentionally, not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go buy like clothes because I want something. No, like intentional stuff that we truly really want and desire. And for me, like going to events like that, it's for me, I just enjoy going to events like that. And last time I went was probably like a year ago. So I was like, I kind of like let that go. But then I was scrolling on social media, and an ad came on from Lewis, and I was like, damn, I really want to go. So I was like, you know what? Like, I remember what Asu was talking about. Like, this is something I really enjoy. This is gonna help me, like personal development stuff, and just like being in a room with a bunch of people who are trying to be better and do better. I think it's kind of inspiring as well. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go. I am gonna go. I want to see him. I love, like, he's literally probably the first or second podcast I started listening to on personal development. So he's like the OG. Like, I've been listening to him for now maybe 4 years, and he was one of the first podcasts that I will listen to. I don't know if it was him or Jay Shetty, but they were definitely one of the first two, if not like maybe in the same place. But so, you know, it would have been an amazing opportunity. He's doing a book tour, and then because he's launching his book, I think today actually it comes out today I'm recording. And then after I bought the ticket, I realized I didn't even check who the interview was with for his podcast live, and when I checked, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I love the interviews. I was just listening to a podcast episode about her being interviewed by, I think, Diary of CEO. So I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. Like, I really enjoy how, like, her content, like how she speaks, and like how she just like the wisdom that she has, and everything that she teaches in those interviews or talks about in those interviews. So I was really excited to just go there and like not only see Lewis, but also see her in person, or like from really far away, but being able to like just be in the moment and like listen to what she has to say. And so that was really fun. It was really interesting. So I asked my friends if they wanted to go. They're like, no, they're not really into that. So they're like, no, it's okay. And I was like, okay, it's fine, no worries. I kind of already knew that we weren't gonna go. So I had already bought my ticket. And I hanged out with them before going to the event, so we were like thrifting because I've been wanting to buy some overalls, and I was like, and then I kind of like I really try my best because I fun fact about me is I hate shopping. I don't like shopping. I feel like I know what I want, and if I have a store where I know they sell it, like I will buy from them. And thrifting is you have to like look around and you have to like see if it fits, if it doesn't fit. But I was like, I want some overalls. They're really expensive, like out here. They're like $100, and I want specific ones for like to work at a farm. So, it was just like we ended up going, but I found 3, but two of them didn't fit, and one of them was kind of broken. So I was like, yeah, I guess it wasn't meant to be. But I got out of my comfort zone, and and we went to a bunch of thrift stores, and I was just looking like, oh my god, like this is too overwhelming for me. But it was fun. I hang out with my friends. To cut to the chase, to the insights, because I don't know, I'm like ranting and talking about my day, but it's an episode, like this is what it's about, right? Pretty much. So I said goodbye to my friends. They came to the city too, but they were going somewhere else, and then I was going to the event because I was very late as well. And so I ended up going to the event. I go to my seat, and like Lewis has already started talking because I was like 15 minutes late. And so he was talking about his book, and this is where like the insights started talking about, because his book this book specifically is about money and your relationship with money. And this is really important because, again, this is something I've been working on for now like 2-3 months, where I think I've mentioned previously I've listened to I don't remember her name, but I've mentioned it before. It's this lady, and I will do like her guided meditations on money to kind of like reprogram your mindset with money, your relationship with money. And then right now that I'm in the membership and I'm gonna start the mentorship with Basura Naite, she also talks a lot about like receiving and kind of like reprogramming our minds and upgrading our beliefs with our relationship with money. And like we can go to the past and like see what were the traumas or what's happening, and honestly I already know all of those stuff. I already went through that. But something important that Asul talks about is that we also got to change the emotion or the feeling that we have in our bodies, because these emotions, the negative emotions specifically, because that's why we have so many blocks and why we can't allow ourselves to receive, is because when we do receive, there's this feeling that we get of like, no, I don't deserve, like this tranquilo, where like we don't want, like no, this is not for me, like something bad's gonna happen if I do get these $1,000, let's say. And so this is called a somatic therapy, where when you feel that feeling, let's say you receive $1,000 and you start feeling like, oh my god, no, I don't deserve this money, or something bad's gonna happen, you kind of like close your eyes, you take some deep breaths, and then you kind of like go where that feeling is, that feeling of let's say if you feel it in your hands and there's like a tingly sensation, it's like, okay, I feel it in my hands, and then like you kind of like start you start breathing, and you like intentionally like to the feeling of your hand. And so and then from there you're like, okay, you start breathing, and then the feeling starts kind of like lowering or diminishing, and then you redirect that emotion or that feeling into where in my body do I feel good. And then from there you're like, okay, like this is good. And it's a whole process. I'm not an expert on it, but it's something I've been learning a lot, and it's definitely helped a lot. So with Lewis, going back to Lewis' house, he talks a lot about like money, and it's so interesting because it's such a simple thing. It's such a simple of understanding what's the relationship, resetting, like reprogramming, and then allowing yourself to receive. That was pretty much like what he was talking about. But of course it's way more than that, because if like it's simple, but it may not be as easy as we want it to be. But that's pretty much like what his book is about. And so one of the important questions that he asked us was, if money was a person, a human being, like how would you feel? Like how would you feel? So like if you knew that money as a person was gonna come to your house, how would you feel? Would you feel nervous? Would you like be like, oh my god, I'm gonna pretend like nobody's home, so when he or she, the money rings the bell, like he won't be able to come in. What's the thing? And like he gave the story of like how his I don't really remember. Maybe if I recorded it, I'll put it in here. But it was pretty much like his he asked that question to a friend who was in his late 20s, and he was pretty much saying like he would pretend like it's not there, like he would like pretty much ignore it. If he like will message or anything like that, if money will like message or anything, he would like ghost it. And it's pretty much like it's not even their type of relationship. And obviously that's really bad, because we need to have a good relationship by seeing how much money we have, what like budgeting, or like understanding what are we intentionally spending our money in, and what do we want to spend, what's this rich life that we want. And that's something that a lot of that Remit, I don't remember his last name, but it starts with an S, I think. Remit talks about like what's your rich life, and it's gonna be different for everybody. But if we don't look within and we don't realize exactly how we want to live our lives, because for some people it's gonna be like the Ferraris and the mansions and whatnot, and it's like, okay, what do you have to do to get there? And then for other people it's like a simple house, maybe a farm, or living in the city in an apartment and whatnot. Very like simple life, quote unquote. And it's gonna vary on like what exactly do we need. And then not only that, then you also go with what's your mission, like what's like, do you want to work a 9 to 5? If you do want to work, like what's the job, what's your dream job? If you want to have your own business and you want to be a freelancer, like what's the dream service or product that you want to sell? And then from there you kind of have to look within, because like sometimes you can make money just to make money, but it's not going to be fulfilling. So then you have to go into that whole area. Okay, who am I? What are my gifts? What are my talents? ¿Cuáles son mis dones? And then from there kind of go into, maybe not go into your passion, but definitely just being more fulfilled with the thing that you're doing. Because when you're fulfilled, when you're happy, when you're like, obviously obstacles and whatnot, but if you're like, when the job doesn't feel like a job, it'll be so easy to just receive. And again, this is something that Lewis talks about, this about like early money coaches talk about, and that's what I've learned with Asunanite. And it's, again, and that's why I said in the beginning, it's like very simple. It's a very simple thing to kind of like understand, but like when you apply it, it's very hard. Like right now, I'm really struggling with like finding a job. I've been able to save money, and then because I don't have a job, I have to use that money to use it to either pay rent or like little things that I need to do, or like let's say with the event that I went with Louis, stuff like that. But it's like I know that these are things that I enjoy, and that feeling of abundance as well, because I'm not buying the ticket with like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? I spent $50. Okay, what am I gonna do? And then like kind of go into this like hermit mode type. Like no, it's like, okay, like thank you God for allowing me to, or whatever you believe in. Thank you for allowing me to buy this ticket, and like to have this opportunity to go and learn from Louis, and to go and learn from Evie, and like from the people around us. Because even like, and it's like very simple things or simple exercises that he made us do. For example, he in the beginning, before like he officially started, he was like, think of 2 things that you're grateful for. 2 things that you're grateful for. And it was so funny, because like sometimes we think it's like very easy, or sometimes we don't even do it as much as we want to, or as we should. And for me, I was like, fuck, like what am I gonna say? Like, because then he made us get into partners and share that information, and even that also made me learn a lot, because one of the individuals, it was a lady and a guy. The lady, she was like, I'm grateful that I'm able to see now more in one of my eyes, because she had like something, and like she was partially blind, or blind in one eye or something like that. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. Now what am I gonna say? Because that's kind of like for me, I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. Like I'm glad that you're doing better. And then the other guy, he was I forgot what he said. He said he was grateful for his health. And I was like, fuck, what do I say? Because I got nervous. And I was like, okay, I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that like I'm in this event, getting out of my comfort zone, coming here by myself, because that's not something a lot of people do or want to do. And it's like, I'm grateful that I was able to come here, and now that fear of, oh, what are other people going to think, which honestly I don't really think about. Ever since I went to that trip in Texas, I don't really think about, oh, what are people going to think if I'm by myself. Pero that's kind of what I said when I was there. So doing those exercises, reminding us, oh, okay, we do have to be grateful for things, and hearing other people what they're grateful about also made me like, oh shit, like I should be grateful for my, because like look at the experiences that they're going through, and it must have not been easy, and yet they're still here and trying to do better and be better, you know. So that was really also like very inspiring. And yeah, and also like especially people in their 20s, if you're listening, it's also very interesting, at least for me it was very interesting to kind of see that a lot of the people there were like in their early 30s, late 30s, somewhere in the 40s, some were older, like in their 50s. So it's kind of cool to kind of be in a room where you're kind of like one of the youngest people, but I feel like it inspires you or motivates you, like, okay, like maybe not everybody here is doing the work, and so it kind of like makes you feel like, okay, at least I'm doing something. Not to like say that other people are not doing the thing, or like it's like their own process, but for me that at least helps me kind of like know that I'm in the right path, at least for me. I don't know. So that's pretty much like some of the things that he was talking about. And I'm trying to remember what else specifically about his book that I remembered, because it was like being grateful. It was also the feeling of going back to the relationship you have, or the relationship your parents had, and then how that influenced you. Because for him it was mostly like he didn't deserve it, so he had to reprogram. And I think that's a lot of a similar belief for many of us, like, oh, no lo merecemos, we don't deserve it, or you know, you have to work really hard to get it. Like especially coming from immigrant parents, you kind of see, like my dad specifically, in my experience, he would work 50, 60 plus hours a week so that we could survive and like have food on our table, have a roof under our heads. Is that the same? Have a roof, pretty much have somewhere to live, right? And so all these things, when you grow up, it's like, okay, I have to either work really hard and work a lot of hours so I can survive, or for me, I went to the other extreme where I don't really want to work because I don't want to kill myself, and at the end of the day not have enough and only have enough to survive. So that's why I kind of like, one of the reasons why I kind of went into this journey is because I didn't want to just survive. I wanted to live a very intentional and fulfilling life, and I'm still trying to get there. But I've also learned that we have to be in the present. We have to enjoy the moments now, have this abundance mindset, change how we feel with money, with life, with all of these things. And for me, it's also like a relationship with the universe, of God, like whatever you believe in. And like me, is like universe, God is like very interchangeable, but like that's what I believe. And so stuff like that it's what helps this whole changing and reprogramming our relationship with money, right? So that's kind of like what I learned. I definitely want to get the book just to kind of like see, just to see what he talks more about, like maybe exercises that he gives. That will be really interesting to like see and do. But that's like that part. That's the book tour part of it. Let me know what you guys think. Like, how's your relationship with money? I definitely, right now I'm in the place where, like, I know I could receive. I know like things can change drastically. I know there could be opportunities that, you know, can happen from one day to another, and I could just receive, right? But there's still like something where it's like, but is it possible for me? You know, I know it's possible, but like, can it actually happen to me? And it's something I've been working on for these past like few months, and it's kind of crazy, like different experiences that I've had where it's like, okay, it kind of reminds me, okay, I am deserving. And honestly, and this is something I was going to talk about, I don't even know where, but also like comparing, using the comparison, or comparing ourselves to other people to my, at least for me, to my advantage. Because I see a lot of influencers or social, or just people who create videos in general, where it's like they're making money, but the way they're making money, it's like, for me, it wouldn't be fulfilling. It's like you're just trying to make money, or maybe it's not even helping the planet, or you're just selling to sell. And it's like, you know, it's like you could do whatever you want, and like if that's fulfilling for you, then like, and if you think that's helping, then like so be it. But for me, I feel like that's one of the reasons too why like creating episodes and whatnot is like very hard for me, because I feel like I don't have much to offer. But at the end of the day, when I see other people's videos, when I see their contents, like shit, like they're just either like, let's say like YouTubers, where like they're just out having fun, drinking, and that's what they're sharing. It's like, okay, if they could make money out of that, if they could receive and be abundant in creating that type of content, why can't I be abundant and receive when I create the content that I feel like is going to help and that I enjoy doing? Because I enjoy learning from, like, I could listen to podcasts the whole day, like Louis House, Jay Shetty, Ferbroka, Suranite, all these people, Diary of CEO, Woman of Impact. I could be watching their episodes, and like that for me is like, oh, I just enjoy learning all of that. And if I could share it and then also make money out of it and make a living out of it, like, why not? Why not me? So all of that, it's a very interesting. And I think I'm definitely getting there of like, okay, I can receive, I am allowed, I am deserving just like everybody else. And if you don't believe that, like, know that you are deserving it of it as well. And we just gotta put in the work. And that's another thing I'm learning from Azul is that no tenemos que esforzarnos so much. We don't have to put a lot of effort in the sense of like, I gotta do, like, kind of like that hustle mentality. Like hustle mentality is no more. And we can receive and we can enjoy all these things, and we don't have to be hustling in the sense of like working 24/7 to make money and survive. But I think I'll leave it there with with what I learned from Lewis House, from the bookstore part of it. With Evie, I really enjoyed the conversation, and I can't wait for it to come up on YouTube and in the podcast, in his platforms, pretty much, because I feel like I need to like rewatch it like 2-3 times. But there's like a couple things I don't really. That's why I want to watch it again, because I don't really remember to explain. But the things that I do remember and that I can like explain and that I kind of like aha moments. Well, I think one of the first one was a lot of people identify with their trauma, right? Like oh, I grew up with my parents, like they were very, example, this is not my experience. Example, like my parents were very abusive, like they would hit me all the time and whatnot, and like that kind of like becomes part of your identity, and therefore whatever happened, like you kind of like become that victim, like the victim mentality, and you use that to kind of like blame either your parents and like why your life is why your life is the way it is right now. And so what Evie was explaining was that she had a case, she was talking to this lady, and like, that she pretty much started like her whole life story and like everything, the traumas and whatnot. And Evie was like, okay, but if we set that aside just for a little bit, like what, like I think she mentioned something like, what do you want to do, like what's next, like what's like, ¿qué más eres besides that? Like, who are you in reality? Like, what do you like? What do you want to do? Stuff like that. And the lady got really upset, and she's like, no, like, you're just, like, not validating my feelings or something like that. And that really made me think, because sometimes we do let, like, that identity, and I agree with Avi. I agree. Sometimes there's, like, rabbits on the... Sometimes there's rabbits like on the backyard. I wanted to see if there was one. But I really agree with Abby, and I feel like sometimes we let our identity, like, our identity influence and direct us in a way that we shouldn't let it direct, because, again, I feel like at some point we do have to take responsibility for how we want to live our life from the point where we become a bit more conscious. And okay, yes, this happened to me, and I could start healing those stuff, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna keep on blaming the situations and keep blaming people for how my life is gonna keep going, So like me right now, 24, I can't blame my parents because I don't have a stable job, or because I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my life. I can't blame my parents. I can't blame society, because at the end of the day, there are opportunities out there. And yes, it can be hard. Yes, they may not be. It may be really hard. It may be really hard to find, or just like also skills that we didn't learn, from like confidence, from talking to people, connecting, social skills. Like I did not learn those social skills, and for me it's really hard. But I'm not gonna be blaming society, like, oh, because school didn't teach me how to talk, I can't like do an episode, or I can't go talk to somebody and connect with people. Because at the end of the day, I had that experience, but I could change it now, especially with all the resources out here, with YouTube, with podcasts, with courses, and just practice, like literally just practice. So I think it was a good reminder where like we don't have to, like, our identity or our traumas don't define us, and we can choose to we could choose to change how we see the story, right? And the things that we learn. And that's something actually with Asuna, she was talking about how like these things that we had to live with, especially in our childhood and growing up, it was to what's it called? She said the word in Spanish. It was to entrenamiento. Era un entrenamiento, like the things that we kind of like had to do or had to learn. It kind of trained us for something, either for a skill. Maybe that's what, like, for example, there's people that have trauma and then they become like therapists and whatnot. That's not necessarily the case for everybody, but there's certain skills or resilience maybe that we gain that's going to help us with what we have to do in our lives, and be able to connect and resonate with other people that we might be helping with whatever we do and choose to do. So that was really interesting. I may not be explaining it correctly, so definitely go check their episodes, but that's just like something I feel like I will want to share, and also a reminder for myself. Another thing, I think an important thing, and something that we hear a lot, is boundaries. So with her, she was talking about boundaries and also how people treat us and how we let people treat us. And her point of view, it was really interesting because we set the standard of how we want people to treat us. So for example, especially as women, or like whatever it is, whatever the case is for that we face like discrimination or whatnot. For example, if I were to go to a job and then my boss is let's say a guy, and he disrespects me in a certain way, whether like verbally, let's say verbally, it's my job in a sense to talk to the person. Let's say he's screaming at me in front of everybody, right? Then it's my responsibility to communicate with him and talk to him. Maybe it'll be better if it's in private, where it's like, I would like to talk to you about what happened when you scream at me in front of all these people, and I wouldn't even know how to say, but it would be maybe something like, I want to ask for you to not do that again. It's humiliating, and if you want to tell me something, you could tell me in private and we could work it out. Stuff like that. And then you're setting the standard that you're not going to allow that disrespect, But for many of us, and there's also the factor, like for many of us, it's scary to do that because maybe we think we could lose our job, or we don't have the confidence to kind of like, even like right now, I was like struggling to even like think of what I could say. And so the lack of confidence and the lack of skill of maybe like communicating to the person, and then fear. But at the end of the day, if we want respect and they're not giving it to us, we have to let them know like what we can accept and what we don't accept. And in a way, there's some part of responsibility in ourselves for not speaking up for ourselves. And that's why it's really important to work on ourselves and create that confidence and self-love, and understanding what we are willing to accept and what we're not willing to accept. And then from there, being able to communicate that properly. And sometimes you don't, and if they don't listen, or you're not willing to communicate what you want, then you can also leave the situation, change jobs, go somewhere else and whatnot, if we're also not willing to do that. Because again, I think it's really a lot of communication. And that's actually another thing that she was talking about, on how like when she was training to be a Secret Service agent, she gave it a specific example where she was the only woman in the training that they were doing, and there was a black guy who he was also the only black guy, and I think there was probably maybe like 300 people, I believe. But you could check the episode to verify the information. But it was something like this where Abby, she was kind of like doing her thing, and she was like training, and she didn't notice that she was the only woman in the training program, until the guy was like, I'm the only black guy, and he feels a certain way because he's the only black guy. And then Abby she was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. You're right, like you are the only black guy, and I am the only woman. But that didn't let her affect or influence how she would like treat, or how didn't let her, it didn't, she didn't, that didn't let her feel a certain way, or be disrespected by other people. She just did the thing that she wanted. And there were certain things that maybe people would comment on, but like she didn't let that affect her. And I think that was a really interesting thing where I found it was interesting in the sense that sometimes we can get so much in our heads of like, oh, but we're the only person with like, whether Mexican, whether whatever race or ethnicity we are, and it's like, oh, because of that, like people are judging us. And like sometimes we could get so in our head of like that it lets us influence our performance and like what we want to do, and honestly not give a fuck about what other people think, because you know, if you have the talent, if you know what you're doing, if you know, if you're clear on like where you want to go, and the talents and gifts that you have, you know, that shouldn't be a complete obstacle, or you shouldn't let that influence. Like, there could be the external obstacles, but don't let that be an internal obstacle, if that makes sense. So I think that was a really interesting thing that she was talking about, and I think it was something I wanted to share, because I think it's true where sometimes there's external problems that we kind of let them become internal problems, so, and then that influences our performance, so like what we can do, or the relationships with others, because we think that they're thinking this certain way, but in reality they don't care, and it's just us perceiving. It's like that quote from Jay Shetty where he was talking about like, it's not what you, I think, man, I forgot. I'll leave it in the like right here, so you guys can read it. And the last thing that I want to talk about, that she talked about, was kind of like adapting to situations. I feel like for many of us, there's that whole thing of authenticity and being who we are, but I feel like there's specific scenarios or situations where we kind of have to adapt. And the way that she explained it was that in her being a Secret Service agent, she had to interrogar a lot of people, a lot of criminals, right? And so talking to these criminals, they were like terrorists, or they were like pedophiles who like abused of children, or most like children. And so when she would have to interview, she couldn't let her anger of what happened influence the whole interrogation, because if she were to scream at them like, oh, you did this, you idiot, like how could you, like, you're such a bad person, blah blah blah, and if she would have let those feelings go, she wouldn't have gotten the what's it called, she wouldn't gotten the response of like, yes, I did it, and that would have ruined the whole point of them being interviewed. And so that's her example. And what she believes is that like, sometimes we do have to adapt depending on what our goal is, because in her case, her goal was to get a declaration of like that they were guilty, and so she couldn't scream at them, and she had to like listen and pay attention, and kind of like in a way behave in a way that will allow them to speak and get the declaration. And that didn't mean that she was okay with what they did, or no, like she knew how she had to behave, and she was still herself, but it was just in a different way, in a different way that was needed at that specific situation. And the same thing, like I say with business, like you don't have to like a specific person, but if you have to make business, you have to do business with that person, then you're gonna behave in a certain way, where it's all about respect, and we're not gonna let her emotions like influence if that's a specific business deal that needs to be done, you know. So I thought that was really interesting, and I think for many of us, we kind of like say like we have to be ourselves, and we're not gonna let ourselves be distracted. But there's certain situations that we just can't control, and we could just behave in a certain way, and like kind of like be also the bigger person. I think maybe that's also another thing. But yeah, I think that's what I remember, and my voice is already like leaving, so I think I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know what you guys think and this whole thing with like, what's your money relationship? Do you know Evie, and like what do you think about her, like in the sense of like the beliefs and the things, the ideas that she shares? Like do you what's it called? Do you agree or do you disagree? I would love to know in the comments down below. And with that being said, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, share, and yeah, have an amazing, beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.